Alright, so if you decide to take the board breaker approach next format, here are the top 5 cards I think you should be running in either your main or side deck. Share your thoughts in the comments and let me know if you like the video and if you agree or disagree with the cards that I put on today's list. I genuinely feel all of them are going to have insane impact moving forward, so yeah, let's go ahead and get started. The first card I wanted to talk about today is Super Polymerization. It is going to be busted, to say the least. You can pretty much deal with almost any board imaginable, and what I really love about it is also the fact that you're able to just set it, just chill when Fire King start playing, Rescue Ace starts playing, Snake Eyes, whatever it may be, you can stop them in their tracks with the help of Super Polymerization. So it actually pulls double duty. Not only does it work as a board breaker, it's also able to effectively stop your opponent when they're trying to make their push. And in the next format, we're going to have a lot of interaction. There's no negate per se, especially in the Fire Mirror match, and that's mainly what we're going to be focusing on. So what you want to do is you want to have a combination, in my opinion at least, of hand traps and board breakers to really stop your opponent, slow them down, and then kind of meticulously just break apart their entire board. And I think Super Polymerization is going to be really, really impactful. You can also go full board breaker approach. There's also the option of doing that, especially with the first couple of cards on today's list. You can probably main deck all of them and get away with it. But yes, Super Polymerization is great because it's able to deal with already established stuff, or you can try to, use it as you're trying to break your opponent's board and actually playing your cards. And what I mean by that is, if you summon the Abelstar, for example, you go for the effect, you can effectively dodge any kind of targeting negation with the help of Super Polymerization, because usually your opponent is going to have an SP. So the Abelstar and SP immediately make a great combination and a pairing, basically, for Super Polymerization. So your effect goes through, you deal with their board, and also we have to talk about the actual Super Polymerization target. In this case, that's going to, of course, be Mud Dragon. And Mud Dragon is going to put in a ton of work in the next format. Its effect of preventing targeting is actually huge. You are effectively turning off Promethean Princess, which is really, really good. And let's talk about Rescue Ace. Pretty much everything Rescue Ace does is it targets. So Mud Dragon is actually a pain to deal with if they don't have any immediate way of beating over it. And, they probably won't have, because you literally took away their monsters with the help of Super Polymerization. Especially if they're going second, they're going to have to, they're going to need an additional push, which they might not always have. So yes, there's that. And Karura is also nice. Obviously a good target, it's a draw. And I guess let's talk about some other applications as well. It's actually not bad against Labyrinth. It might seem a little weird, but you can deal with their board fairly effectively. Yes, they have their stuff in the graveyard. There's Big Welcome Labyrinth and all of that. You still have to really stop their plays, prevent them from replenishing their resources, but you are able to deal with their board in that way. So that's really nice. There's also the Vanadium board, which can quite easily be broken with Super Polymerization because they actually do insane combos. The only thing to keep in mind is that some of the players can go for the Omega Loop. So it's a little risky, going for the board breaker approach against that deck. You would have to rely on having it as the 6th card, which is not ideal, but not all of them are doing it. So I think it's still fine. So yeah, when it comes to Super Polymerization, I just love the versatility. It's also able to be used against many random decks. You're always probably going to be able to make either a Mud Dragon or a Garura. It's literally nice against pretty much everything. Tier, anything branded, Fusion, Chimera, all of that. Yeah, it's just oppressive, helps you get your stuff going. So I think Super Polymerization is going to be key in the next format. And yeah, let's move on. I said that the first couple of cards on today's list you probably should be main decking if you're going for this entire board breaker lineup. The next one is going to be Talents. And Talents is just going to be insanely busted because we're not only moving into a format where you could get away with running board breakers, we're also going to be seeing a lot of hand traps. Draw is going to be extremely frequent. It's going to be in almost every single main deck, I assume. Nibiru might be as well. There's also Impermanence, which doesn't play into talents, but that's the only one that actually doesn't play into it. And I guess Veiler, because I'm purposely leaving Ashe out of this, since a lot of people say that they're gonna cut it. But if you're up against someone that still uses Ashe, because the actual impact of Ashe is still fine. It was never the most impactful hand trap, but it's applicable across the board. So people might still run it. We're going to see after the format actually develops a bit if people are going to be on Ashe, but it's heavily going to depend also on the type of event you go to. If it's like a premier level event, it's going to be different than your random locals. So that's going to matter because, your opponent is going to be activating hand traps, and going first talents is really, really good. But of course, what we're focusing on today is breaking the boards. So what you can do is you can trigger talents almost every single time, because usually what your fire opponent is going to be doing is they're going to be playing during your main phase. Everything is going to trigger then. Their interruptions are obviously layered, so they're going to be triggering like everything. There's Princess, Kirin, Ponix, Garunix, Snake Eyes cards, Flamberge, IP, Apollousa perhaps, and talents is going to be live, and being able to either threaten or effectively resolve the take effect is really nice, because with one card you're baiting an interruption, and then you get to talent stake an IP, maybe make your own Apollousa, which could be, prevented from being destroyed by Promethean Princess, or just actually take an Apollousa, have it there for your purposes. Take a fire monster if you actually want to, like if you're playing a fire mirror match and you're trying to utilize their cards for your own combos. So that's the option. And also being able to actually check their hand and seeing if they have a hand trap like a Nibiru or something really impactful or whatever, to actually make sure your stuff goes through is really, really vital. So yeah, I think talents is going to play a really important role. You can also just play hand traps and then play like 2 talents and a called by maybe, to have it as an option for going first and second. Like, I think there's a lot of versatility in the ways you can use talents, and I wouldn't sleep on the card, definitely. Now, this next one is just going to be, the best friend of talents, which is Thrust. I talked about how talents is almost always going to be live, but with Thrust, it's also great because a lot of times the fire opponent might be going for Heat Soul. I've seen a lot of combos go for Heat Soul, and then they're still able to get an IP out and play that way. Or if it's Rescue Ace, they can just start triggering their stuff, after they draw, preferably into a hand trap. That's why they're making it, obviously. But yeah, what they also do is they trigger your Thrust. And with Thrust, you have amazing targets, which is talent, and also the next card on today's list, and some other stuff as well. But yeah, what I really like about Thrust is the fact that you're also able to go for your engine if you're missing a piece, or if you just need something to continue with your plays, or to be able to bait something out, because it's almost always going to be able to force Ashe, which is really important if you're playing Fire King especially, because sometimes an Ashe, like a well-timed Ashe, is actually going to hinder you. So yeah, in my opinion, Thrust is just a tiny bit worse than talents, but I still think it's really nice. So I would look into playing Thrust as well. And what's a good target for it is the next card on today's list, which is Change of Heart. Now, I actually kind of want to include 2 cards here. One is Change of Heart, one is Soul Release. They don't have anything to do with each other, but they are both good Thrust targets. So today's video is actually top 6 cards you can play, top 6 board breakers, but it's whatever. Let's talk about one more. So yeah, Change of Heart is really nice because just like the talent stake effect, you are for a fact dealing with one thing, which is really important because, again, if you're able to take an Apollousa, that's actually able to aid you in some way. And yeah, again, you're trading. It's just going to be so important to really keep the card count going, to make sure who has more resources, to trade fairly, like 1-for-1 every single time if you're able to do it until one of you, preferably your opponent, runs out of resources. So cards like these, you know, change of heart and stuff, the talent stake effect as well, are going to be really, really important. So yes, I think change of heart is nice. Obviously better than mind control because there's no restrictions there. But yeah, I think change of heart is nice. As for soul release, like there are ways of playing around it. And I guess, you know, with soul release in mind and the format developing, people are going to find more and more ways. But at least at the beginning of the format, I feel like soul release is going to have a lot of impact. Also, if players are a little inexperienced with Fire Kings or underprepared, or however you want to put it, I think soul release can actually hurt them quite a lot. So obviously it's going to be nice against all of their stuff like Garunix and Princess and all of that. Against Rescue Ace, it's also good because you're able to take away their resources, especially if they go for combos where they have like Preventer or something in the graveyard to revive it with Rescue, or if they have just Princess again. And then against random decks, you might not side it in every single matchup, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna find a lot of ways that might even surprise you when you see that you can actually utilize this card in a matchup you encounter. Because if you have it in your side deck already, you might as well figure out some siding patterns where you can actually include this card in more than 1 or 2 matchups. So yeah, I think soul release is nothing to be slept on. And as for the last card, this is probably my favorite on the list. It's actually Cosmic Cyclone. And why it's my favorite is just because it is so good against so many decks. It's actually insane when you start to think about it against how many of the top meta contenders Cosmic Cyclone is actually going to be useful against. So let's go through that. Obviously, you're going to be able to utilize it against Fire Kings where you deal with their field spell, or even Sanctuary, you know, if it's like a clutch situation where you need to do it. And you're also going to be able to use it against Rescue Ace. Obviously against them, Mass Removal is better, but if you pair Mass Removal with Cosmic Cyclone, it actually hurts them a lot. If you go like evenly into Cosmic or something like that, it's going to be a struggle if they don't actually leave a chainable like back row, because usually they're gonna try to leave a trap card, you know, go Preventer in the next chain, like emergency into Preventer, send Preventer off, you can resolve your evenly or whatever, in the next chain bring something back with Preventer, your trap is still live. But if your opponent also has a Cosmic, that actually really hurts. So if you're trying to actually play around it, you can leave something that's chainable, like a Rescue, you know, just chain it, bring Preventer back, and then you have a Book of Moon. It's not a trap card, it's a Book of Moon effect, but still, you know, it's at least something, because usually you're going to be able to tag out SP with something else anyway. So you're starting with quite a lot of cards actually on your following turn. So even if something like that, it's not going to completely hinder you. But, you know, not every single person is going to do that. And Cosmic is still really, really nice because it's actually like chainable. You don't need to wait to get into the main phase to be able to utilize it, which plays around anything and everything, like Anti-Spell, Eradicator in Labyrinth, stuff like that. And against other decks, since we're talking about Labyrinth, utilizing Cosmic Cyclone is actually better than Mass Removal in my opinion. Now this might sound weird, but what they're going to do is they're either playing in your draw phase or your standby phase, or they're chaining everything that they have. So what are you really doing with your like Lightning Storm in hand when they're playing during your standby phase? And if you know, wait, they don't do anything, fine. You go into the main phase, you slap down that Harpies or Lightning Storm, they chain everything. You didn't really do that much. But with Cosmic, you're actually able to target specific things, whether that be something that you know is set, like a big welcome or a welcome, or something else, because you know what was set, so you can deal with, you know, the unknown sets. Against other decks with field spells, it's also going to be really nice. You have Runic and Centurion. Those two would be the most prominent ones, obviously. And you're going to be dealing with both of them in the next format, I assume. It's also not a bad card going first. If your siding patterns to work that way, you can actually side it going first to be able to deal with, you know, all the other decks with field spells or, you know, pretty much anything else that you feel like could be useful against. So I really like it because it's not just a board breaker type card, but also a useful card going first, just like Super Polymerization. So yeah, you know, Cosmic, in my opinion, is going to be really, really good. There's also like still random stuff present in the meta, like Unchained or something, where you're going to be happy to use Cosmic, not Harpies, against their back row, obviously. So there's also that, or like Pearly, you know, you want to get rid of their back row. Against the mass removal is also nice, obviously, but they don't always establish the field spell and My Friend, so you're going to be able to deal with, you know, just get my friend off of the field and you're probably going to feel really good about yourself. So yeah, I think that's gonna be it. Hopefully this video wasn't too long for only 5 cards, but I feel like there's so much to talk about. The next format is going to be interesting and really cool and really complicated, actually, with all the interactions and all the cards we can play and the decks that we can play and different variations of fire decks we're going to be seeing. So I'm super excited for all of that. And yeah, let me know what you think of the video and of the cards that I mentioned today. And let me know what approach you're going to be going for next format. And yeah, like the video if you enjoyed it, of course. Ding the bell so you are always notified when I post. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.